Today we're going to be talking about physical reality, and we're going, how do you become a devoted member? You become a regular member, you're a regular member for a month, and then you can take some training, and then you ascend into being a devoted member. We've been going through this book, so if you're interested in this book, and you can buy it on Unicult Supply Co. on Etsy. If you don't have money, because that's a boring thing to focus on, I understand. You can follow the YouTube sermons. The YouTube sermons are going through the book detail by detail. But it's cool to have the book. It's a physical, tangible object, and it has everything written out very clearly. So today we're talking about physical reality. We're on page 33, so we're about a third of the way through the book, and we're going to talk about what is physical reality. And the way that I discovered physical reality is, let me just start recording. We're going to be talking about physical reality. The way that I discovered physical reality is because I started learning about how the universe is made up of consciousness. And I realized that our conscious minds actually create our realities. And I tell the story of the power generator because this is how it happened to me. I had moved into a house, and the landlord there was a power generator in the back of the house. And my landlord said, "Hey, we're going to take that power generator out of there, and we're not going to leave it there." And I said, "Okay, whatever, that's fine." And the thing is, I lived in that house for like a year and a half, and they never took away the power generator, and I forgot it was there. It blended in to the rest of my surroundings. And then one day I was just laying around, and I looked out the window, and I saw the power generator, and I was like, whoa, where the heck did that power generator come from? Because I had completely forgotten about it, and I know my landlord had completely forgotten about it. So how was that power generator still sitting there in physical reality, even though I'm pretty sure no one had thought about it in a year? And this helped me understand this thing where whenever we say belief makes real, and whenever we say our consciousness creates our reality, people don't tend to understand that because they say, well, what about all the other realities that are happening around us? You can't just say, oh, I think I'm going to fly, and you fly. You can't just say, oh, I think I'm going to be away from money, and then you just solve that problem and you don't have to worry about money anymore. And this is because we have a multidimensional experience. When you think about the world, we have to understand that each of us are reality creators, and we have the ability to create our realities around us. But we're cohabitating this realm with many other reality creators, and we all overlap in harmony with one another, and that creates our conscious reality. When we talk about the whole of it, that's social reality. That's when more than when two or more people agree on something, that's social reality. But if we have just our own thoughts in our own head, our own experience, that's personal reality. So when we use our personal reality to understand the world, we understand that other people have their personal realities. But that still doesn't explain physical reality, does it? Because physical reality was there, that power generator was there, even though no one had thought about it for at least a year. And so I came to the understanding that physical reality is operating as a separate entity, a separate consciousness, a separate aspect of reality than our conscious reality. We're interacting in the third dimensional plane. It's a simulation, it's a computer. And what happens in this physical space is that intention has a certain long-lasting effect. So this goes into the creation of the universe, which might blow your mind. When I think about how the universe is created, I'm not saying I know this to be true. This is just a thought exercise. If it benefits you to believe it, then believe it. This is what I think happened at the beginning of the universe. I think that time is misconstrued from our perspective. I think we're just little ants, and we don't understand the whole big picture of what time is. So when we talk about the creation of the universe, it's not a linear process. It actually happened outside of time. Once we understand that the creation of the universe happened outside of time, we can then start to understand that the intention of all that is created itself. So when you have the intention in the future, it creates the beginning in the past. It's a big loop. If you don't understand that, you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. But what we're trying to bring this back around to is physicality. And every consciousness has its own intention. And that's what drives it. That's what keeps it going. I have my own intention to live. That's my life force. I have my own intention to create. I have my own intention to be. Everything I do is my own intention. That's my divine energy. That's my personal reality. We have social intention, where we all, decide that we're going to be led by certain people, or we all decide that someone is famous, or we all decide to overthrow systems that aren't serving us. That's our social intention. But there's also physical intention. And physical intention is built into the actual physical matter that exists. It interacts and interplays with conscious intention. So when we're talking about the power generator, we're talking about the physical object of the plastic, of the metal, of the gears, of however it's generating power, the magnets perhaps. And we're taking that physical matter, and there were a bunch of people who put their conscious energy into those materials to shape it. This is the difference between when we say something is, natural or human-made. They took the raw resources. Lots of people put lots of intention into creating this. So they took the raw resources from the earth, the metal. There were people who were mining it, people who were running the mines. They created the plastic. And they also had the designers, the engineers who created the designs and the plans for the power generator. This is all intention. So all the intention is building and building and building. And then we have the person who actually created it. They put it together. They pieced it together. They cast all the metal. They built the parts. They put in the magnets. And then we have the person who bought the power generator and put it in my backyard. And then from there, all of the different intentions created it. And those intentions radiate out for a very long time. Different materials have different strengths of intention across time. So plastic has a strong strength of intention across time because it doesn't biodegrade. I just blew my own mind. So the different intentions in that power generator are what keeps it there. Eventually, those intentions, if there's not enough upkeep consciously of that item, the other intentions will break it down. The intention of, the sunlight, the intention of the vines, the intention of the rain and the wind, the intention of my landlord to move it, someone's intention to smash it. All these other intentions have an effect on that initial power generator. So when we're talking about the multidimensionality of the universe, we can understand that physical energy has its own set of rules, its own set of intention that lasts beyond what could potentially be conscious intention. So I want to talk about how our conscious intention can actually change physical reality. And this has to do a lot with what I've been talking about a lot on TikTok and also on YouTube, which is that our media is all mind control. And so we're talking about how Earth used to be a very slow computer, and that's because the information on Earth was highly controlled. As we go about our lives and we have new thoughts, that changes our reality. But Earth is a very slow computer, and it was entrenched in really old paradigms. Think about it like this. If you lived 150 years ago, your life would be very similar to your grandparents' life, would be very similar to their grandparents' life, would be very similar to their grandparents' life. Life was pretty much the same for thousands of year periods. Now what's happening? The last 150 years, let's move that up to 100 years. 100 years ago, your life, you got electricity in your house. That made your life completely different from your grandparents. Now look at now. The kids on their phones animating, just typing all the text and sharing with each other and communicating in instantaneous clips, their life is very different than their grandparents' life, who had to go to the library to search, anything they wanted to know. Information has gotten faster, and our lives have changed dramatically. Because our lives are changing so quickly, our architecture, our brain, is still slow. because genetics are slow, because genetically and consciously, we were only exposed to so much change at a time. But we're on the spiritual singularity now, the exponential graph going up and up and up, doubling every amount of time. So our ability to comprehend it is reduced because of the adaptations that we've experienced over the course of human history being very slow. Our brains literally are not very good at picking up new information. But we've been at this now a little while. How fast have things been going? You can tell the difference between someone who has jumped on the bandwagon and someone who has not, and you can see how their attention and their speed and their processing speed is faster or not. So we are doing our best to keep up with all this information, and it took us a while to kick into gear because we're trying to catch up with the amount of light or information that is blasting our planet right now, that is coming out of our glowing devices, that is processing through our bodies and through our cellular understanding. We are entering into what is called the New Age. We are entering into the Great Awakening, and we are creating a new reality based on our conception of the world. So when we change, our intention changes. When we have a new idea, that changes our behavior, it changes our perception, it changes our actions, it changes our thoughts, it changes our fundamental reality. Physical matter interacts with conscious reality just at a very slow pace. In the past, it's going to be moving quicker and quicker. We're seeing a lot of reality glitches. We're seeing a lot of Mandela effect. We're seeing a lot of lucid dreaming. We're seeing a lot of dream messages. We're seeing a lot of UFOs. We're seeing the seams of reality start to break away because our reality was false. The idea, I think this comes into flat Earth. I know there's a lot of flat earthers on TikTok. And I think flat Earth is I think it's a conspiracy against conspiracy theorists, honestly, personally. I might be wrong, and I don't mean to disparage anyone's beliefs. But I think that they're trying to reduce how we think of the world. So the world is interdimensional. We're living in an interdimensional reality. The Earth is not a globe. It's not flat. It's an interdimensional vibratory space. So to reduce it from a 3D to a 2D situation is to actually go backwards in understanding, not forwards. Forwards in understanding is to understand that the interdimensionality of our consciousness actually creates the physical reality that we live in. So how do we, as conscious creators, understand the importance of our thoughts, our behaviors, and our actions? We do this by understanding our own personal conscious reality and the physical space of our reality. Think about it like this. Your physical space, your home, your car, your body, these are the physical manifestations of your consciousness. The physical reality about your room is your conscious domain. The things that you have around your room and how you just leave them around or keep them organized. If you're chaotically minded like I am, and you start a project and you leave the string that you're weaving with dangling all around, and you have 3 pens underneath the piano because you were writing in such a frantic space and they flew out of your hand, and you've got books strewn about. This is my reality. That's a reflection of my mind. This is my physical manifestation of where my thoughts have been, because my thoughts have guided my body to open things up and leave all the cupboards open and eat whatever is out of the box and leave the box because I'm thinking about other stuff. I'm doing my best. I'm always doing my best. And I recognize the chaos of my space is the chaos of my mind. So these things are interacting in a strong way. And when we talk about the divinity that you have, the conscious divinity of your own reality, it starts within your own emotional reality, your own perception of reality. It radiates from your perception of your reality into your physical reality, into your physical body, into your home, into your relationships, into the world. And so we say, begin within. When we begin within, we have the most power to affect reality. So what does the media have to do with any of this? All media is mind control. The mind control of media is that it gives us a rigid understanding of what the world is supposed to be like. When you see, the dumb husband stereotype on TV over and over and over again, what does that say to your consciousness about men? What does that say to your consciousness about husbands? What does that say to men's consciousness about themselves? And we see it. How many shows, think in your own head, how many shows do you know off the top of your head that has a dumb husband trope? This has been perpetuated in our society for so long that we just think of it as this inherently true thing, and men think that maybe it's okay to be that way because it's so normalized. There's so many things like this in our society. How many times have you seen a blonde hot cheerleader? That's an archetype. That's a stereotype, and we rely on these stereotypes to put ourselves into boxes, and then we have an expectation of reality that is shaped by our media understanding that we then believe to be the world. It's not. It's a limitation, actually, on the infinite nature of reality. And then we behave in a way that makes that reflection real. So when we're talking about physical reality and our belief about physical reality, we can start to understand that our power comes from our limitations, breaking those limitations on our beliefs. There's a really important podcast. I never talk about podcasts because I really have a hard time listening to them because I want to interject the entire time. But there is a very good podcast called Radio Lab, and it's something about color. I can't remember what it's called exactly. I think there's two of them on color, but the one I'm talking about goes like this. Throughout all of human history, colors came into literature over time, and they came in a certain order. People could not see the full spectrum of light like we see it today, and they have proof of this through literature. So in the Odyssey, or Ovid's Metamorphose, some ancient text, the ocean is described as being a maroon color. And nobody seemed to describe the color blue for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, across the whole world, the color blue was sort of started to be described and started to be understood. So think about that. Think about what colors are we not seeing? Our perception is limited. Light is the full spectrum. Our eyes only see a small section of that spectrum. So what colors are we not seeing? What parts of the spectrum are we not tuning into? As we become enlightened, we're going to expand our consciousness, we're going to expand our mind, and we're going to start coming up with words for, language for, ideas for these new things that have always been around us, but just that we have not yet perceived. Physical reality is energy, but it has its own intention. It has its own rigidity because of our understanding of it, everyone else's understanding of it, and its own vibration. The earth itself has her own vibration. A tree has its own intention. You cut a tree down, you use its wood, that is the tree's energy maintained throughout time. If you want to see a greater spectrum of light, meditate. I have been seeing an incredible spectrum of colors beyond the physical reality, which are not associated to physical objects, but instead are in just air, in the air. And sometimes you can see these colors if you take your phone camera and you hold it up to the sun. Don't look at it, just take the picture. And sometimes you'll see the other colors coming off the sun. Those are the colors. Spend time thinking about those colors. Spend time believing that you can see a greater spectrum of light. I have been seeing incredible colors, and we will all see these colors soon. It's more than colors, though, because colors are just it's just your sensor taking in that information and processing it in your mind. Plants have their own intent. All things are alive. The tree energy dies when it is cut. That is true, but the physical energy remains. And that's what's important to understand, is that physicality is real. If you believe wholeheartedly that you can fly and you jump off a cliff, you're going to probably fall. But I believe, and maybe this is worth testing out with something like, if you believe you can fly and you have the support of a community who believes you can fly, then I think you can fly. And I think that's why light as a feather, stiff as a board works. Because I think it's all these young kids whose brains haven't been solidified, concreted by their expectation of reality, assuming that they can levitate someone, and then they levitate someone. When I was a child, I was levitated during that game, light as a feather, stiff as a board, and we were all it was a very witchy party. We were all concentrating very much. I was 8 years old, and I was with a bunch of other 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, not that tall, and I had my eyes closed, and we were meditating. I was rising up, and all of a sudden I felt something kind of strange because I could feel my own breath on my face. So I opened my eyes and I saw the ceiling right in front of me, because that's how high up I was. And I was shocked, and I fell back down slowly and gently. But that event stayed with me for a very long time, obviously to this day, because it was insane. But I think that's because children don't have these rigid confines, these rigid understandings of reality. And I think we can all do this. I think we can all levitate. I think if we all believe we can do things, we can do anything we believe we can do. We have to break free from the programming that has been fed to us on our TVs, on our phone screens, in order to create a rigid reality and expectation of us. All right, Uni bless. Have a good day. See you next